Hello and welcome to the Last Wicket. I'm your host, Benny. Thank you for joining us. I'm joined today by my co-host, Mayank. Hi, Mayank.
Hey, Benny.
Before we get into the rest of this episode, we're obviously going to be talking about the first round of IPL 2025. But I very quickly wanted to acknowledge the fact, well, there are two things, but first, I wanted to quickly acknowledge the fact that we recently completed 100 episodes of the Last Wicket podcast, which is still, I still find it hard to believe because I don't know how it's gone by so fast. We started this back in 2021, January or February 2021. We had four co-hosts back then. This was obviously in the middle of COVID, and we had a lot of free time on our hands, so we were doing episodes every week. And we were very fortunate, especially in that first year, to speak to a lot of prominent guests. Um, and so it's been a great journey. It's been fun, especially talking cricket with you, Mike, and with a lot of the guests that we've been very fortunate to have over the last few years. What do you feel about us reaching 100?
I honestly had not thought about it at all. I remember when you brought that idea of doing a podcast, I was like, I guess I've never done an audio platform before. I prefer to just write or
Yeah,
tweet. And so it was pretty new to me. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that idea because I feel like people have been really generous with their times with us. And
right,
whether it's somebody Arun Lal joining early on. Murli Karthik joined us once. There have been
right,
other people like physios and all the various roles around cricket have given us time and have been able to join us. And we hope to bring a lot more of that. We're constantly reaching out to other writers and
yeah,
and support staff, things like that. So yeah, I feel like I've learned so much about the game because we were very much focused on, oh, this is, from the outside, you always think, um, this they're getting all of this wrong and things like that and typical fan behavior essentially.
right.
But as you talk to these people, there's so much going inside those dressing rooms, inside planning, all of that. And yeah, I've just been very appreciative of everything I've learned. And yeah, very excited for maybe 100 more.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, hopefully. And I have to say, like you mentioned, we talked to some really prominent guests, but some of my favorite ones have been episodes where we just talked with other fans, not necessarily working full time in cricket, but just passionate cricket fans who are very analytical, whose love for the game shines through in the way they talk about it. And so we've been able to do all of that. I don't know how many podcasts can cover the breadth of cricket expertise the way that we have been able to. And obviously, we have not been able to be as frequent as we would have liked because work and life gets in the way. And at the end of the day, we're hobbyist podcasters. So, uh, we try to do this whenever we get time. But that kind of segues nicely into what we are going to be talking about today, IPL 2025. We're going to be covering the first round of this new season. And the hope, or the plan, I should say, more optimistically, is that we will be able to do this, every round. After every round is completed, or every other week, we should be able to kind of follow along and see how the tournament is progressing. I also wanted to just do a very quick shout out because, especially for those of you, uh, if you're just listening to this on audio, you would have listened to an ad at the start of this episode. But for those of you on video, I don't know if you can see my t-shirt. It says, "I am only believe on Jesse Bai," a very memorable quote from Mohammad Siraj. And the credit for this t-shirt goes to Mayank, who himself is wearing a t-shirt that I think you should quickly plug your own, what you're doing with the t-shirts, Mayank.
Absolutely, yeah. So this is an Ashwin t-shirt, just has his statistics and says "Thank you, Ashwin," which we designed in December to, right as he announced his retirement. Yeah, I think I've just had this idea of, moments in cricket which are really memorable, which we as fans never forget and rave about for years and years. And I've had this idea for a while, and I never ended up like starting something until this December when I had a little more free time on my hand, and
Right.
worked with the designer to come up with these items. And yeah, these are now available all over the world through the website in India and then through the Etsy store. So yeah, please order, please support, and give us all the love.
So we'll be including a link in our show notes. So do check it out. And I know that Mike is also open to feedback for ideas
Absolutely.
for new t-shirts. So feel free to drop that in as well. But okay, IPL 2025, we are 5 days in. Well, actually, I don't know if it's 5 days, but we've had essentially all the teams play their first game, and we already had a century, some high-scoring games, one kind of tense, not necessarily low scoring. I guess it's a mid scoring thriller in Chennai. Um, so much has happened, and we're here to break it down, especially these first few games. So, Mike, I know it's very, very early to talk about a lot of these things, but what has caught your eye in these first few games?
I think I've been still trying to just keep up with all the changes. You know how it happens every three
Yeah,
years, we get new teams. I had a
right,
friend text me yesterday saying I was supporting Delhi because I love Pant, and then he realized Delhi Pant is now with LSG and not Delhi. So it's one of those things. I think we're all catching up to what the squads are, trying to remember where all the players are. You know, obviously people will remember the marquee players, the stars, but the smaller players do move quite a bit, and so trying to just catch up with that. Other than that, I think yeah, I'm just for me like what I love about the IPL is the opportunities it gives to the lesser known players. So what
right,
has caught my attention so far is Vipraj Nigam, the Delhi lad who helped take wickets and then scored runs with the ball as well, with the bat as well. He
right.
was pretty, yeah, it was a pretty interesting mix. The only thing I'd read about him prior was just that he's sort of a mix of, he's kind of like Rashid Khan and Hasaranga mix, obviously a lighter version of them, not as experienced or not as successful, but somebody who has capabilities with both bat and lower order batting and then bowling. So it was pretty cool to see somebody like that succeed, you know, in their first um, game. Yeah, I think that's one I would say definitely stood out to me.
Yeah, your point about this being an opportunity for Indian, like domestic cricketers, who they play almost year round, but they really come to the fore during the IPL when everyone is now focused, not just from India, but even, fans from outside of India who follow the tournament. They get to see, and especially given the abundance of talent for the Indian senior team, a lot of these players, as good as they may be, are not going to get regular opportunities to play for India, but the IPL is where they're really going to get their opportunity to shine. So in that regard, you're absolutely right. Like, apart from the name that you mentioned, in the same game, we had Ashutosh, who obviously he had a great 2024 season as well. But it is incredible how big strides he has made because till he was there at the crease, like I never doubted that, they would win. I honestly thought he would somehow managed to win it for his team. So he stands out as one player who I think, given that the Indian team is always looking for finishers, if he is putting up these kind of performances consistently, it's going to be hard to ignore him. Same thing with Shashank Singh, who who last year both Shashank and Ashutosh, because they played together, were called I think it was called Smashutosh, if I'm not mistaken. And he played well today. So there are a lot of young, not necessarily just young, but just cricketers who have slogged hard in the domestic circuit who are getting their due recognition now thanks to the IPL. But one other, I'll just very quickly list my top three performances so far that I've enjoyed. Now there was like a Ishan Kishan century, but it was good, and we'll talk about some of the factors surrounding these high-scoring games. We'll come to it later, but um, for my top three performances, two are batters and one is a bowler, which clearly speaks to how this tournament is already shaping up to be. So I'll first talk about the bowling. So longtime listeners will know I'm a CSK fan. I do not apologize for that. And I might be even a bit partial. But in their game, their opening game versus the Mumbai Indians, there was a lot of attention on Ravindra Jadeja and Ravichandran Ashwin. But the spinner who took top honors was from Afghanistan, Noor Ahmed, who did a fantastic job, not just controlling the run scoring, but also picking wickets. And what I enjoyed, apart from just keeping the bowling figures aside, was the way he bowled with control, the way he bowled according to plan, which it's easy to lose sight of that, especially in the IPL. And I'm sure he'll be tested on other grounds because obviously in Chennai as a spinner is always going to be more favorable to you. But the bigger challenge for him will be when he goes to grounds like, like in Bengaluru, or in Ahmedabad or Hyderabad, all these flat decks, like that's where he's going to be tested. But it was really good to see him because obviously Rashid Khan has always been the talisman for Afghanistan and Afghanistan's spin. Um, and so they've been really fortunate to be blessed with some world-class spinners, and Noor Ahmed is now slowly making his mark. He was good for, I think, the Titans last few years, but then this year, this first game for CSK made an immediate mark. As a CSK fan, I was thrilled to see that. He was definitely the bowling performance off the first round for me. And then the other two, I already mentioned very briefly. Ashutosh Sharma, like I said, while he was still batting, I never doubted. He just has this presence about him. He has this aura in his very brief IPL career. He just has this very calm, like, I can get this done, which reminds me a lot of Surya Kumar Yadav. So if he keeps it up, we're going to be in for some treat. Like just the way he didn't like go, smash bang right from the beginning. He got the runs,
Right.
rotated strike, got everything. And then he made sure he was there till the end. Of course, he was fortunate that Mohit Sharma did not get stumped first ball in that last over, but that was really good to see, and I'm really excited to follow him. And the third one was Shreyas Iyer, who in his game today against Gujarat Titans scored unbeaten 97. What I liked about it was just the confidence and poise with which he played. Like right from the first ball, he just looked like he was in for a big score. He seemed very carefree. He seemed very comfortable in his environment, like with the new team and putting aside all the hang-ups that he's had over the last year, couple of years, maybe. Just the crispness and clarity with which he batted today, it was just amazing to watch. And he's obviously got a few more years that he can play at the highest level, but if he carries on this form and this confidence, like the Indian team is in for a good time with Shreyas Iyer. So these were the top three performances of these first few games for me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Shreyas Iyer. I feel like I think he hit his first ball for a four. I wasn't able to see the full innings, but just that first shot, I was like, wow, yeah, the last 18
Yeah.
months, he's just been, untouchable. Like, whatever the surface, whatever the opponent, he finds a way to score runs. Um, and the fact that he's only in the India ODI squad, not even in the T20 squad, tells you like the depth of the Indian team. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. He's clearly like, just continuing with his confidence. He's clearly a confidence player, has all the skills. Whether obviously is known to be a great spin hitter, but he obviously has enough to manage pace and score quickly against them. Um, Top innings for sure. Um, I know it's early, but what are your thoughts on the orange cap? Who's any predictions on that?
Predictions. Given that only one round has been completed, I'm going to be way off, but I'm sure we'll revise our
Oh, no, that's the point
predictions.
of this. This is fun.
Um, I mean, just based off the way Shreyas Iyer batted, I was like, he's the captain of his team. He's playing, I think, in the top three, right? I think he came in at three. So he's going to get plenty of opportunities to bat. And if he continues the form with which he is playing, like, yes, he would be the top contender. I'm going to stick with Shreyas Iyer, actually. There are a couple of other people. There are a couple of other people that I'm thinking of, someone like Travis Head, if he's playing throughout, this tournament. I don't know what he just loves Indian pitches and Indian bowlers, and he's going to be facing a lot of them and playing a lot of them in the coming weeks. So I just feel like he always has to be in the top. Um, Someone like KL Rahul always features among the top run scorers every year, even though every year he's also criticized for his strike rate, but he gets the runs. He gets it at his pace, but he gets the runs. But I'm going to stick with Shreyas Iyer just based on the confidence with which he is batting these days. He just seems more at peace. And since he's the leader, he seems to have a good backroom staff. He has Ricky Ponting as coach. So he just seems to be in the right space of mind, and the way he's batting, I think he definitely is. Based off this first round, I would predict that he is going to be the orange cap holder.
Yeah, you took my prediction away. My thought was KL Rahul.
Uh-huh.
Obviously he's not yet in the tournament, and Gujarat aren't looking super hot, so we don't know if sorry, not Gujarat, DC aren't looking as hot, so we don't know if they'll get into the
Right.
playoffs, and he might play only 13 games. But yeah, I definitely think he's going to be up there. The other person I was thinking of is it's going to be a boring answer. It's going to be Virat Kohli because he, again, bats at the top, bats in a
Yeah.
batting friendly
No,
venue.
that's
He's
a
in
fair
good
call.
form. Yeah, I feel like, he didn't have an outstanding season last time and he was seventh. So I feel like, yeah, he's definitely going to be in the top three, four for sure.
Okay.
What do you think of the purple cap?
So my reasoning is that as the IPL continues to be a very, very batter friendly tournament, with the pitches also favoring the batters, you're just going to have players, and especially also, let's not forget the impact sub. We are going to have teams every game they come out just not worrying about losing wickets. They're going to attack, attack, attack right from the first over, from the first ball. So, given that you're going to have batters attacking constantly, you need the right kind of bowlers to induce these mistakes. And I always feel that spinners are best equipped to induce mistakes from batters even more than fast bowlers. So given that I mean, there are plenty of spinners to choose from, but based on the first round, again, since we're only going based on the first round and how we're going to predict this, Sai Kishore, who plays for Gujarat Titans, he seems to be well regarded in domestic cricket, and Ian Bishop even mentioned during commentary, like, he just toils every year, but he plays well. He has good seasons. He also has leadership material. He's captained the Tamil Nadu team. And he's been a little unlucky because he always plays in teams where more, prominent spinners take all the attention. But I think in the last couple of years with Gujarat Titans, he's been able to kind of carve out like a niche for himself. And, in this game today against Punjab Kings, you had Shreyas Iyer and co go on a rampage, but somehow he was able to still do his thing, bowl the right lines and lands. I mean, sure, he did err on a few occasions, but what I like about Sai Kishore is that he seems to have a good head on his shoulders. It's very reminiscent of Ravichandran Ashwin and Varun Chakravarti. Like he just seems to be a kind of person who is always thinking about how to get the batter out, rather than just keeping them down or tying them down and minimizing the runs
Yeah.
scored. So I'm gonna go with Sai Kishore as an early contender for the Purple Cap.
That's a pretty interesting choice. I don't know if anybody would have picked him. That's pretty cool. I will agree that spinners are going to have a good time. I mean, they're always amongst the top wicket takers. And the fact that now they have this really odd rule introduced last minute of a different ball available after the 11th over for due. Um, I think that also helps them. The ball's not going to be a
Mm,
bar of soap that they can't grip
right.
it. So I do think spinners are going to do well. I'm not sure if Sai Kishore is going to do that well, but my pick is actually kind of where you were starting this conversation by saying, "Hey, it's super batting friendly," and all of that. And I think that, in my mind, is why Harshal Patel should be up there. And the reason I think that is, well, one, their top five is just insane. Like SRH is going to go out there and try to score 250 every single time, which essentially means, and they'll probably do it in Hyderabad anyways, because the track is pretty flat. They may not be able to do it in Chennai, for example. But I think what that means is the opposition will be forced to come out, all guns blazing,
Right.
and there's enough in that bowling lineup to make sure that there's runs at the end saved for Herschel to defend when he bowls in the death. So I do think he's going to pick up a lot of wickets with his slower ball. And really on flat tracks, what else is there to do? A change of pace is really the only option bowlers have, apart from
Right.
nailing a Yorker. But yeah, that's why I think Harshal Patel might be among the contenders. If I had to pick a spinner, I do think Noor Ahmed's going to have a great time. As you know, you picked him already as a performance of the week, because yeah, I think Chennai have been pretty smart in their squad construction because it's not the most exciting squad, but the fact is that they're very, very well suited to Chipok and the spinning wicket with
Right.
Jadeja, Ashwin, Noor Ahmed, and then yeah, if you need it, like even Rachin Ravindra can bowl spin. So the ability to have 16 overs of potential spinners on a track like that is quite smart. And so yeah, we'll see how they do.
I think to the fact about Arshal Patel, I just don't know with fast bowlers, even though fast might be a bit of stretch for Arshal at least. Um, Given it's 2 months of cricket and there's going to be a lot of travel, there's going to be a lot of games back to back, a lot of time spent on the field. I just feel spinners in general last longer than fast bowlers. They don't break down as much. Um, so I don't know if Marshall would get to play every game. I mean, I know he has a reputation for the purple cap and getting wickets, but it'll be interesting to see if he gets to play in every game or if he gets rotated. Which is why I always feel spinners have a higher chance, especially now going forward. I know that historically, a lot of the time fast bowlers have ended up as a top wicket taker, but again, just the tides are changing with regards to the IPL. Is just becoming more and more. I mean, it has always been batter friendly, but I think it is just going to a completely new level now. Um,
Yeah.
so I still feel like spinners will have higher chances of taking wickets than. I mean, if you're talking purely about the charts, the wickets charts, I think it more likely that a spinner will end at the top.
From Virat Kohli's MCG 6 against Pakistan to Bumrah's stump-destroying Yorker to Ollie Pope. Incredible things happen on the cricket ground. We also get iconic lines off it, like Siraj saying, "I only believe in Jesse Bye." There are so many incredible moments that cricket fans just never forget. And now you can wear them on your chest. Free Hit Gear has launched a line of amazing t-shirts and hoodie designs. Passionate fans in India can order through their website, freehitgear.com, while fans abroad can use Free Hit Gear on the Etsy store to have items delivered to them. Order now with the code GOODAREAS, or one word, to get a limited time 15% discount, and you can wear a t-shirt like this one right here.
Yeah, let's talk about what you just touched on, just how the cricket or the type of cricket being played is shifting. I think we saw this last IPL as well.
Yeah,
Sunrisers scored a lot of, what is it, four scores over 225, maybe. They've
yeah,
already have a 287 in week one, in game one itself.
yeah.
So clearly, there is a lot of emphasis on batting, and when I say batting, it's literally hitting out of the park. Like that's what they're focused on. They are not necessarily too worried about taking a quick double. That part of cricket is going away, or that part of T20 cricket and IPL is going away. Um, I guess, what are your thoughts on the change? How do you see it as a viewer? Um, are you enjoying it? Are you like, do you think like you miss the 160 games?
Listen, I mentioned this last year when we did like I think a mid-season episode when there was like a phase where almost every game it was like not just like 200. It was like 220, 240, and then it was like 260 in a couple of games. And it's funny because we talked about that and we were like, this I guess is the new norm for IPL. And then I think the next 2 weeks we didn't see any 200s being scored. But again, yes, I mean, already in this first round, we've seen, with the exception of like I think a couple of games, I think we've seen 200 not only being scored in the first innings, but the chasing team comes pretty close to it, right?
Right.
Or have actually chased it down. Personally, I don't enjoy it as much because even like today, there was a point where I could see they were scoring the boundaries and the sixes, but even the commentators were losing excitement. Like someone hit a six and there was like no excitement in their voice. They were just like, and it's another six. It was like when something that comes once in a while becomes the norm, it's not as special anymore, right? Like if it just seems like an extended highlights package that scoring a four is like as normal as running a two, or scoring a six every over. It's like if you don't score a six, then it's like what happened, right? But take the game, Chennai Super Kings versus Mumbai Indians. Now that was a 150 match where Mumbai Indians got to 150 and then Chennai Super Kings. In the end, it became a convincing win, but there were points during the game where Mumbai Indians were really fighting hard, and that has been the most exciting phase of this tournament so far. And that the only reason for that is we were not seeing boundaries scored every over. We still had, um, an actual contest between bat and ball. So it was gripping. I remember like till I think it got to just before Dhoni came in. In fact, it was kind of tense. It was like, I don't know which way this is going to go. Like Mumbai Indians could still sneak in like a 2 or 3 run victory here. Contrast that with the games that are over 200 were being scored. It was not a question of will they do it. It was more like, okay, they need 20 runs of this over. They'll probably get like 14 or 15. That's not the same. And I think Kagiso Rabada made a quote. I think, I don't know if it was before the IPL, but he just said something to the effect of, you might as well have bowling machines and just call the game batting instead of cricket because it's obviously all skewed towards the batter's favor. You don't want that because then it's not fun, right? As a cricket fan, I find myself tuning out when there's just an abundance of fours and sixes because then it's not special anymore. Give me a good 120, 130 game. Like that's just more, it actually keeps me hooked. And now I'm invested in every ball. Even if it's a dot ball, it's actually more interesting to watch than it flying to the boundary.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think like the excitement part, I feel like that is obviously subjective, right? So you and I agree that, yeah, there needs to be more for the bowlers. But I would also say that I know a lot of people find like the finish that Delhi had against Lucknow, where, they were 65 for 5 chasing 210 and then somehow managed to win that. People find that a lot more exciting. That's just the
Yeah.
truth of it. I think that the more common fans do,
I
which
find that
is totally
exciting as
fine.
well,
Obviously,
but if it
that's
happens every game, is it still
and
exciting?
that's my point. Yes, that's exactly my point. So I think it's exciting, but at the same time, like I feel like there's needs to be a variety of conditions, and that is something that India has typically been good at. Like if you think about Chipok, like it's been spin friendly. Kolkata used to be spin friendly. Hyderabad, Bangalore have been batting friendly. So we've had these variations, and I think this is great because then every team needs to be, pretty balanced, and then obviously do slightly better in their home conditions to get to that playoff and then eventually win.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that lack of variation is starting to show, but clearly it's not starting to show from like an Indian fan perspective because stadiums are packed, TV ratings are high,
And I think,
so it's not showing from that perspective just
yeah.
yet. But I think it will happen at some point. I think just shuffling the teams every 3 years is not going to be enough to keep the interest. So at some point, there needs to be a reversion to say we need slightly better, more balanced pitches. But the other aspect, which doesn't get talked about as much, is the boundary sizes.
Mm,
That needs to be, I'm not saying it needs to be standard. Like, obviously, there's,
yeah.
pitches can, like, number of pitches are used over such a long season. So it can't always be, 75 meters each way. But I saw Ishan Kishan hit a six, which landed about 10 or 15 rows back, and it was 66 meters. And I was thinking, how short is this boundary if it's 10 rows back? And so that
Yeah.
is another piece. It doesn't need to be standard, but it still needs to be
I
reasonable
mean, I was
to be
thinking
able
like
to.
I was not sure if I was seeing things differently. I was like, are the pitches smaller or is it just the angle of the camera? Like it just looks weird. But I mean but it's very clear that the IPL is geared towards what you were talking about, keeping the fans keep coming back for more. Um, Honestly, when it comes to T20 cricket and the IPL, I think we are in the minority because most
Yeah.
fans, right? They want to see sixes and fours. They don't want like a low scoring thriller because that, in their mind, if they're not like like a dyed in the wool, passionate cricket fans who follow the game year round, but only come to the grounds during IPL season or watch the games when it's IPL time, they don't want those low scoring thrills. They want to see sixes and fours. They want to party in the stands, and that's what the IPL wants to market to, right? These are the people, these are the type of fans that the IPL wants to market to because in their mind, IPL is about entertainment and less cricket, less about the cricket. And this is not a brand new thing. Many people have talked about this, discussed over the years. And if that's the way IPL wants to be, it's fine. And yes, some people are going to find it, maybe most people are going to find it entertaining, but my opinion is that it'll reach a breaking point if this continues to be the norm
Yeah.
where it doesn't become a big deal anymore. A team scoring 250, 260, it's not going to be impressive anymore, and bowlers will just be like, why do you even care? I'm gonna get hit for runs anyway, so might as well just turn up and bowl and whatever. So you don't want apathy to set in. You want people to continue to improve their skills and try to find a way to turn the tide in their favor. And so I
Yeah.
really hope this game doesn't, the IPL doesn't continue that way. I hope they find a balance. It'll be much more, it is already entertaining. It's already more fun to follow the IPL, but all I'm asking for is a little bit of balance. Give something for the bowlers too. It's fun to watch fast bowling. It's fun to watch fast bowlers knocking the stumps down. It's fun to watch spinners weaving a web of, mystery and having the batsman clueless. If you see every batsman connect and send the ball over the ropes, like it kind of all blurs into one. Like, it is not special anymore. So I just hope they're able to figure out a balance to that.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, let's talk about obviously we'll kind of wrap this up quickly because we're going to keep coming back for more and we'll talk more about these teams going forward. But what are your thoughts on how the teams are coming along?
Yeah, it's every time there's an auction, it's like we start over from scratch. Obviously, some teams do a better job of retaining a good core versus others. So it's always interesting to look at teams and wonder if this new combination is going to work. And as I was thinking through this before the IPL started, I was looking at each team, trying to figure out what their strengths are. In my mind, there's sort of three variations of teams. There's one which are consistently solid, and those teams in my mind are, nobody's going to be surprised if I say Mumbai Indians. So Mumbai Indians is
Yeah,
up there. Um, SRH is probably the other one who have gone with, retained a good core, and that top five batting lineup is just phenomenal. They've added, Shami and Zampa, and now Harshal Patel, and of course Pat Cummins bowls. So there's bowling there to defend those bigger scores. Um, the third team that comes to mind is Kolkata. Kolkata is an interesting team because again they've retained a good amount of their core stars. Surprisingly, they didn't retain Shreyas Iyer,
right.
despite winning the cup with him. But they've retained a good set of their stars, and yeah, they seem pretty solid as well. Like just capability wise on paper, there's very few teams which will confidently say they can, beat Kolkata every day. So I think that is probably in my mind tier one. Like those three are probably the best three teams in this IPL, or at least in this season. I'm sure more transfers and other people come in as it goes, but after this auction, those are my top three. I think the second set is really large because I don't think there's like any. There's a lot of teams which are really low. Majority of the other teams fall in the second category, which is there and thereabouts. So they're probably not as well balanced as the three that I mentioned, but they're fairly close to each other. And so in that category, I think it's every team but Lucknow. Sorry, Lucknow fans, but yeah, your team does not inspire too much confidence. But really, every other team there, you look at Chennai, like obviously, really good experience. They have stuck to their strengths of picking a lot of spinners, so smart selection. Stephen Fleming has been with Chennai for so long. They obviously have a formula that works. Um, I recently read a stat that there's not been never been two consecutive IPL finals where MS Dhoni has not been there. So that shows like the level of consistency that Chennai has,
Yeah,
or even Dhoni's team, Pune, when he played for Pune for a couple of years, had.
they made it.
So I
Yeah,
think they're there and thereabouts. They're definitely going to challenge teams. Delhi has a lot of flexibility, a lot of, like think about Akshay Patel, KL Rahul. Like these people can bat anywhere. They can open, well, KL Rahul can open, Akshay can bat at 4, 5, 6 also. So there's a lot of flexibility there. So yeah, there's definitely match winners in that lineup. Um, Gujarat feels a little bit less balanced than the two I just mentioned because their middle order seems a little bit absent. Their bowling is also very much heavily reliant on Rashid Khan. But having said that, between Butler, Gill, Sai Sudarshan, and some of the other, Shah Rukh Khan, like they have enough to win 5, 6 games. Like they will come
right.
up with one-off performances where they're going to single-handedly or just together combine and win games. So they're not as good as I would say Delhi, Chennai, but they're not super far off. And in T20s, anything can happen. So they're going to win the odd game from nowhere. Punjab, I think, yeah, under Ponting and Iyer looks pretty well inside. I would put them pretty close to Chennai and Delhi. I think those three are going to fight for the fourth spot, by the way. Like if everything falls the way it looks on paper, and obviously that's never going to happen, and we're really early into the season, but I think those three will probably fight for the fourth spot. Um, RCB probably falls into that Gujarat category where they are, not as balanced. I think they're yeah, I know Krunal Pandya started really well and took wickets, but generally he's a defensive spinner. So I was like trying to figure out who's going to be their wicket taker, and I don't really see anybody in there. Like, yeah, Hazelwood is good, Bhuvi is good, but they're going to get a wicket a game. There's nobody who you can consider an X factor, and their problem has always been their bowling. So, yeah, I think they'll again struggle a little bit to get into the playoffs, maybe like sixth, seventh position. Who am I forgetting? Rajasthan Royals. Yeah, Rajasthan is also in my mind in that second tier, probably towards the bottom, closer to Gujarat than to Chennai. But yeah, again, they have all these really talented youngsters who are capable. Like Jaiswal hasn't really, if you think about it, like Jaiswal has really done well in the Indian jersey, but he's only had the odd knock with RR where he's set the world on fire. So if
Yeah,
he has one of those seasons, you never know. Like they might do better than most people think. Um, so yeah, that sort of puts all of these six teams there, and then there's Lucknow, where I I was struggling to see where their bowlers are at. They clearly have some really good batting with Puran, Pant, Miller's there now. So yeah, there's a lot of really good batting. There's Ayush Badoni, who's done well for them last season as well. But yeah, their bowling is pretty inexperienced, and that kind of showed in that Delhi game as well. They were defending 210, and yeah, it just didn't happen for them. And this obviously is a result of a number of injuries. They have Mohsin Khan who was injured. That's why Shardul Thakur came in. Mayank Yadav is not completely fit. So there's a few injuries there. But even when they come back, it's not the most experienced bowling lineup. Really, the only person I felt who would definitely bowl 4 overs every time is Ravi Bishnoi. So yeah, I think for me, they are probably going to be the ones that are going to be, holding the wooden spoon at the end.
Uh, okay, so let's summarize that. Well, who are your picks for the playoffs and your wooden spoon?
Playoffs. So my picks for the playoffs are Hyderabad, Mumbai, Kolkata, and Chennai. And then
Okay.
wooden spoon, Lucknow.
Okay, so I don't particularly share the ex I mean, I think I agree with three of your picks. And again, these are predictions. Absolutely
Yeah,
90% sure it's going to be wrong, at least for me. Um, but my picks for the playoff spots, I think I agree on three of them. That is Mumbai Indians for sure. I just feel like uh, for a team with they have Mahela Jayawardene back as coach. They have, even with Hardik Pandya unavailable, they had the Indian skipper, Surya Kumar Yadav, who essentially took over the captaincy reign. And they have someone like Rohit Sharma with all his decades of experience. Um, and they have got a good winning mindset. They have that winner mentality. So I know they had a poor season last year, but I would be shocked if they had two poor seasons back to back. So I
agreed.
definitely think they should be making it to the playoffs. Um, Chennai Super Kings for almost the same reasons. They've also been there, done there. Um, I think what helps is that with Ruturaj Gaikwad now captaining for the second year, he should have gained a lot of experience from last year, and he should only be getting better. MS Dhoni is still around to offer his pearls of wisdom. And there's a lot. I mean, the one thing that Chennai Super Kings can say about more than any other team is because of the sense of continuity that they have, there is some comfort level that players are comfortable, the support staff, they're comfortable working with the players. That really helps. So yes, it will have the odd poor season here and there, but they will definitely make it to the playoffs more often than not. So again, they have a good strategy in place. You know, their home base, very spin friendly, and they've got some of the best spinners in their squad. I'll be shocked if they don't make it to the playoffs. The other two, one, Sunrisers Hyderabad, obviously they made it to the finals last year. They did really great. They still have, I feel like they have almost enhanced that batting power, and now it's even more scary. And I think the bowling also looks a little bit better if Cummins and Zampa can consistently play together. Obviously, Cummins being the captain, but with Shami in there now, they look a lot more complete than they did last year. And so I would say forget the playoffs, they're definitely a contender for the top two, like making it to the final. So this could very well be their year. The fourth is where I kind of diverge because based on the one game that I saw, Punjab Kings actually look like this. It could be their year as well. They've got, Ricky Ponting as coach, Shreyas Iyer as captain. They've got a lot of exciting batters. Um, Obviously, the bowling looks a little light, but I think similar to Hyderabad, I think their batting can actually power them through most of their games. Now, the simple fact of the matter is that there's no one team that looks perfect or look like they have all their
Right.
bases covered. They all have their shortcomings. So it really is a case of which team can kind of paper over the cracks and do just enough to get to the playoffs. Because once it comes to playoff, it literally you have a bad day and you're out. It doesn't matter. You just, depends on how the team is playing on that given day. But at least in the league stages, the teams that figure out, okay, these are our weaknesses. This is how we'll cover up for that or how we'll make up for it. Those teams need good tacticians, and I think Ricky Ponting, even though he doesn't always have the record to prove it, he just seems to have a good system to work with Indian captains and Indian players. So I think with Shreyas Iyer as captain, this looks like a good combination for Punjab and could very well be their year. So as of now, Chennai Super Kings, Sunrisers, Hyderabad, Punjab Kings, and Mumbai Indians are my picks for the playoff. The
But
wooden spoon,
uh,
you're gonna disagree. I think it's Delhi Capitals. Uh, for the simple reason that it's Delhi Capitals. They always I know they won their first game, but again, it was due to this brilliant innings from Ashutosh Sharma. Um, are they going to do that every game? No, I feel like they're going to lose more than they win. And they're going to have the occasional individual performance of note. I'm just not convinced because I don't know enough about Akshar Patel, the captain, and how he's gonna. Because sure, you're gonna have your good days, and it's easy to lead the team when you have your good days. But he's gonna be tested when they're consistently going through a rough patch. And so that's that little uncertainty for me, that unknown factor. And there are many teams like this. I mean, notably, Punjab Kings themselves are a good example where you seem to have everything in place, but due to a combination of injuries to key players, your form spiraling off at the last minute, things can go off the rails very quickly. And I just get the sense Delhi Capitals are going to grab the wooden spoon. Now, again, I could very well be proved wrong, and in the next 2 weeks they'll be topping the charts. But this is the feeling that I'm getting right now.
Well, the thing is, they have such a history that it's really hard to say with confidence that you're wrong because they
Yeah.
really do have a history of messing up. Yeah, well, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, we should when we come back to the IPL, like last episode that we do on the IPL, we should look back and see how right or wrong
And
we
you're
were.
gonna see that I was wrong for every single thing. But okay, let's wrap it up because obviously there's going to be so much more to talk about. The narratives will continue to shift. It'll be interesting to see if batters continue to rule the roost or if, bowling coaches and bowlers figure out a way to stop these rampaging teams. Because last year it looked like Sunrisers Hyderabad were like setting the grounds on fire with their batting, but now it seems like almost every other team has also figured out, well, this is the approach to go with. So it's going to be fascinating to see if bowlers can find a solution. Otherwise, we're just going to be, barring the Chennai games, games held in Chennai, we're going to just be seeing 200 plus, where even 220 is going to look like under par. So it'll be fascinating to follow this tournament. And Mayank, I look forward to catching up with you. Once each round is complete or every other week, we'll track the IPL and see how it's going. To our listeners, we hope you give us feedback. You're free to give your thoughts, and I'm sure many of you will disagree with my picks, but that's what this podcast is for. We'll break it all down. So keep listening, spread the word about this podcast. I know the IPL is always a good time to just get into it, reading about it or listening to anything about it. So do spread the word about this podcast. Follow us on your social media feeds and do check out Mike's free hit gear. That's where you have the t-shirts. But yeah, till the next episode, we look forward to meeting you again then. But for now, we're gonna call it Stumps.